When you call the Jamaica Public Service Company Limited or the National Water Commission, chances are your call goes to a call center. Whether that service is outsourced or is in-house, the principle remains the same. Your call is placed in a queue and is eventually handled by someone representing the company. But for how long should you be kept holding before you're connected to someone? And what should be your expectation that a simple query is suitably addressed at first point of contact? The Office of Utilities Regulation has moved to standardize the customer satisfaction standards measured by the customer contact centers or call centers operated by the JPS and the NWC. These include new standards implemented by the OUR in its determination notice, which took effect October 1, 2020. This is our focus in our webinar today, improving JPS and NWC call center standards, what you need to know. Hello, I am Elizabeth Bennett Marsh, the Public Education Specialist at the Office of Utilities Regulation. And with me is OUR's Consumer Affairs Specialist, Colette Good, who was also the project's lead on the call center determination. Good morning, Colette.
Good morning, Elizabeth, and good morning to our viewers.
We had invited representatives of both the JPS and NWC to join us. JPS couldn't make it. NWC had confirmed, but their project manager for call center operations, Charles Buchanan, who was booked to be here, unfortunately can't join us today. Nevertheless, the OUR wants you to know about the new stipulations for call centers and what you should expect. They were implemented for you. After our presentation, we'll be taking your questions or comments. Please drop them in the Q&A drop box below. That's the Q&A box below, not in the chat. We'll only be monitoring the Q&A box, and we'll take them after the presentation. I now invite Colette Good to update you on the OUR's decisions on improving call center standards. Colette.
Thank you again, Elizabeth. And I'm just sharing my screen here. Sorry about that. All right, so as was mentioned by Elizabeth, the OUR recognized the critical role played by customer contact centers, as the service providers normally refers to them as, but we call them call centers of JPS and the NWC, because we recognize that they remain the main channels through which customers interact with their service providers. We have therefore deemed it important for these utility providers, for the utility providers to assess their call center performance with specific focus on determining the level of satisfaction derived by customers from their call center experience. So to encourage JPS and NWC to focus on customer satisfaction derived from their call centers, the OUR embarked on a consultation process which involved publishing a document and asking the public and the service providers as well to give their views. Now, that consultation focused on whether JPS and NWC were placing emphasis on improving customer experience and satisfaction, and whether they were assessing their customer satisfaction through the call center standards that are measured. So from the consultations, and also, which also included a review of the call center reports that the service provider submits to the OUR, we identified that both service providers are already measuring a number of the internationally accepted call center standards that focuses on customer satisfaction. However, we also recognized that both were not using the same targets for the same standard. For example, the best practice for speed of answer, which indicates the average time taken by a call center representative to answer a customer's call after it is placed in the queue is 20 seconds. Now, while both JPS and NWC are measuring and reporting on their speed of answer performance, JPS uses the best practice time of 20 seconds, while the NWC uses a 30-second time frame. We also identified that both service providers were not measuring the same standards that focuses on customer satisfaction. An example of this, JPS measures call handle time, and that is comprised of the time that the agent speaks with the customer, as well as the time taken after the call to input the complaint or the information into the database or any other after call work that is required relating to that call. Call handle time indicates the efficiency of the agents as well as the capacity of the agents to handle the calls. So we recognized that while the NWC measures, while JPS measures call handle time, the NWC only measures average talk time, which is only one aspect of the call handle time. We also identified that neither service provider measured their first call resolution rate. And this standard is deemed to be one of the most widely used indicators of call center, of customer satisfaction with a call center, because first call resolution indicates the efficiency of the call center agent in resolving or responding to the customer's issues or queries during that first interaction with the customer. So in essence, the call isn't transferred in order for the matter to be resolved, nor does the customer need to make a second call regarding the same matter for it to be resolved. So what were the decisions? What were some of the decisions that came out of the OUR's consultations? As is included in the determination notice, the service providers, so JPS and NWC, will continue to measure and report on their call abandonment rate. And the call abandonment rate speaks to the number of drop calls, the speed of answer, which we spoke to about earlier, which requires calls to be answered within 20 seconds, as well as their percentage service level. Now, the percentage service level speaks to the percentage of calls that are answered within a particular time frame, and that time frame is usually associated with the speed of answer time frame of 20 seconds. Also, both JPS and NWC will, within 4 months of the determination notice, they are required to submit a copy of the call center reports from their operators, because we are aware, certainly at the time of the consultation, both service providers were outsourcing their call center operations. So we want to see copies of those reports, as well as an assessment, as well as their assessment of those reports. And thirdly, both NWC and JPS will, within 12 months of the determination notice, begin measuring and reporting on first call resolution rate. And as I mentioned earlier, the first call resolution rate speaks to the service, the call center agent's ability and capacity to resolve a customer's complaint at the first point of contact. Now, specific to the JPS, they will, within 4 months of the determination notice, begin to measure and report on their average talk time performance, because currently this is included in their call handle time performance that they report to us on. But we have asked them, we're requiring JPS to take out the average talk time as a single standard and report to us on it. Specifically for the NWC, they will, within 4 months of the determination notice, reduce their speed of answer measurement to 20 seconds. They will also be required to use the reduced 20-second speed of answer measurement in calculating its percentage service level performance. And the NWC should also begin the measurement and reporting on call handle time. Now, how will the OUR monitor these decisions? Firstly, the service providers will continue to be required to submit to us their quarterly call center reports. From those reports, we will review and conduct our assessment to see how the service providers are performing, and we will include our review and assessment of the call center's performance in our quarterly performance report, which is compiled and issued to the public. Now, the publication of the quarterly performance report acts as a measure of making the public aware of the service provider's performance. And so members of the public, the customers of the utility providers, can know and can know how their service providers are doing in relation to the standards for their call centers. So while there are no penalties associated with the call center standards where the service providers do not meet the targets, from our experience, we know that they like to attain full compliance so that when we publish our reports, we can publish that they are in good standing. So as such, we expect that customers will see improvements in their interactions with the call centers for the JPS and the NWC. So for more information on the call center standards that the OUR has determined for JPS and NWC, you can access the determination notice on our website, and the address is our.org.jm. That's our.org.jm. And the OUR also wants to remind you that we remain your avenue of appeal for any matter that you may have with your utility service provider. We ask, however, that you contact us after you have completed the complaints procedure with the service provider. But if you need to make contact with us, just send us an email at consumer@our.org.jm. That's consumer@our.org.jm. And with that, I thank you for your time and your attention. I hand you back over to Elizabeth.
Thank you very much, Colette. And for those who may have come in late when Colette would have started, just a quick recap for you about the call center standards that we're now expecting JPS and NWC to monitor for compliance, etc. So JPS and NWC, depending on the standard, would already have implemented them in some cases. In some cases, they haven't. So what are some of these? We're talking about average talk time. Colette mentioned that a short while ago. It will be new in the case for JPS, where they must now measure and report on its performance of average talk time in its quarterly call center reports to us. I think NWC was already doing that. Speed of answer, the average speed of answering a customer's call by an available agent after the call is placed in the queue. Call handling time, Colette spoke about that as well. That is the customer service representatives' efficiency and capacity to handle calls. Percentage service level, that's the call center's efficiency in handling incoming calls by measuring the percentage of the calls answered within a defined time frame. And call abandonment rates, this assesses the percentage of the customer calls that are abandoned while in queue or waiting for a service. And there, of course, is the first call resolution rate, where the timeline is measured about within which a customer's complaint or issue is resolved or solved at the first point of contact with the call center. And of course, we expect that NWC and JPS will be providing how they are performing against these standards when they submit their quarterly call center reports to the OUR. But Colette, what empowers the OUR to talk about this, to make decisions pertaining to this?
Certainly, Elizabeth, the OUR Act, first of all, gives us the authority to put these measures in place because it provides us, as part of our function, it provides us with the authority to regulate the provision of utilities, licensed utility services, which of course includes electricity, water, and sewage services. It also mandates us to protect the interests of utility consumers. But additionally, under JPS's overall standard, which is a licensed provision, there is a standard, EOS 11, which speaks to the resolution of customer complaints at the first point of contact. And the OUR is required to, in collaboration with the JPS, determine a target for that standard. So this consultation and this determination notice that has been issued is also geared towards the determination of the target for EOS 11, which is the JPS overall standard.
Okay, and we're inviting persons who are viewing today. You can either put your question in the chat on Facebook or on YouTube. We're monitoring those. We'll get those questions if you put them in there, if you're viewing us on our Facebook page or on our YouTube page. As well as on this Zoom platform, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Please drop a question in there or a comment if you have one. I'm seeing one here. It's not pertaining to the call center standards. Why only 1 out of 10 meters are tested? Also, when are these meters calibrated periodically? I would ask that person to go to our, I don't think we can answer that right now, Mr. Doyley, but certainly provisions would have been made in the meter testing protocol that was established by the OUR in collaboration with the Bureau of Standards. And you can feel free to get some answers there. The protocol is on our website and we are guided by that. Also, we expect that the JPS and NWC will be guided by those protocols in terms of the testing of their meters. Colette, we noticed that it's only the JPS and NWC call centers that we have made decisions on regarding standard operations. Why not telcos?
Because, Liz, there is already a document, a quality of service document that has been developed for the telecom sector. It is being promulgated, And that document will guide the similar standards as it relates to the telecommunications sector. So there was no need to include the telecommunications sector in this consultation and in this determination notice.
Yeah. COVID is an issue. It has impacted businesses. We know that. The utility companies have not been spared. Based on the review of the report submitted by JPS and NWC, has COVID impacted the performance of service providers in relation to maintaining call center standards, correct?
Based on their reports, certainly since the onset of COVID last year, I would say yes. Because, and the companies in submitting their reports and in identifying some of the decline in their performance related to certain standards have indicated as much. For instance, during the July to September quarter, while JPS report indicated a 4 percentage point improvement in its percentage of calls answered within 20 seconds. Now, this fell below the international standard of 80%, as well as JPS's own internal target of 82%. But I must say, Liz, that prior to COVID, JPS was, based on the reports, the company would usually have exceeded this target. Usually their target would have been at minimum 90%. And so when we inquired, they did indicate that the impact of COVID really had that adverse effect on their call center operations. And it was a similar situation for the NWC with regard to the decline in their call center performance. Because for NWC's percentage service level, that decreased by 6 percentage points, which of course fell below the international standard of 80% because they attained a 74 percentage performance rating for percentage service level. Additionally, the number of abandoned calls for the NWC increased by 4 percentage points when compared with the previous period. So the companies have indicated that COVID has adversely impacted their call center performance, and the reports that have been submitted confirms that.
Yeah. Colette, as we prepare to wrap up, this is a very short webinar this morning. We really just wanted to update persons on, where we are with the call center standards operations. Some of our decisions would have taken effect this month in February. Another batch will take effect, I think, in October this year. What feedback have you received, if any, from JPS and NWC regarding implementing those standards?
Well, with respect to feedback, the service providers are required to submit information to us regarding the types of complaints that can be resolved at the first point. Because we are to collaborate so that we can agree on the types of complaints that will be included to be resolved at the first point of contact, so that the service providers will begin measuring that standard as at October 1, 2021. There has been a delay in receiving that information from both JPS and NWC. However, we have been in contact with the companies. We have reminded them that the information needs to be submitted, and we will continue our efforts towards getting them to submit the information, so that all the other steps, which include a pilot run of including first call resolution rate in the call center standards that are measured, that can be executed. So we have not yet received the information, but we will continue to make contact with them so that we can agree on those types of complaints that can be resolved at the first contact.
Thank you, Colette. I see another question here, again, not pertaining to call centers. Since meters are digital, can customers gain access to daily readings? I would suggest that, Ms. Powell, that you may contact with the utility companies and see what you can work out. I know some meters are digital, some are still not digital. So it's perhaps a dialogue that you can have with your utility company. And with that, I want to thank you all for logging on to us today to talk about the new call center standards that the OUR would have implemented. Some would have taken effect this month. Some will take effect the end of the month. We will continue to update you on the progress of compliance with regards to JPS and NWC's action in keeping with these standards that we have implemented. Some they have already been doing anyway, and a few we have added onto it, and we'll continue to keep you posted through our quarterly performance reports. Colette, I want to thank you so much for being here today. Really, really appreciate it. I know it's in your office and the phones are ringing and you have a lot of things to do, but you consider it important enough to inform customers of JPS and NWC about these new standards. As I said before, we had booked Charles Buchanan, who was the project manager for call center operations at the NWC, to join us. He was fully prepared to join us, but as with things that are unforeseen, something happened, and so he couldn't make it today. We did invite JPS, and they said that they couldn't make this one. I know they're always willing to come on to share with the public. I want to thank our producer, Gordon Brown, as well as our technical team from Visual Tech for making it happen today. Ryan Riley, I know, is monitoring our social media channels, our Facebook. We're streaming live on Facebook as well as YouTube. I want to thank you, Ryan, for that as well. Thank you to our viewers who tuned in today. It's always on our YouTube page. I know quite a few persons tend to go back after because they can't do it while they're at work. They tend to go back and watch it all over again. If you have any questions and queries, publicaffairs@our.org.jm. Let's continue to keep the dialogue going and continue to be safe. I'm Elizabeth Bennett Marsh, Public Education Specialist at the Office of Utilities Regulation. Have a wonderful day.